it can't be just peace in our time. We have a 10-point deal and they've agreed to this. I just think it's going to be very, very complicated, very, very difficult. And I would say this to the President of the United States. I personally know that you will do the right thing, that you're going to try and make sure that it works for now and forever. And so I have complete faith in this man.
Now, for Mark Levin, the right thing is to sacrifice blood and treasure on behalf of Israel and its objectives. And of course, Israel would like to turn Iran into a failed state, and it would like to expand its borders without the fear that Iran will pose as a challenge to their expansionist policies. That's what's really going on here. For people who are sane and who believe in justice and the right to sovereign countries, the right thing to do here is to pull out of this war and, more importantly, decouple from Israel, implement an arms embargo when it comes to Israel. But that's just a fantasy at this point, especially when it comes to a government that's been captured by the Israelis. Now, last night, Mark Levin slammed the US-Iranian ceasefire agreement while simultaneously groveling to Trump. And we've got a little more of that. So let's take a look.
How do we keep this enemy, this poison, this cancer, these Islamist radicals, 7th century barbarians, how do we keep them in a box? And that's what we have to figure out. If we're not going to completely take them out because of the huge isolationist strain in the Democrat Party among the woke right, but again, MAGA, the Republicans are behind the president. But if we can't do it because of the political wins, if we can't do it because of other reasons, then how are we going to keep them in a box? I'm glad he's there as President of the United States. There's some very complicated and difficult issues on the table. And I think if anyone can handle it, he can handle it. But this enemy, make no mistake, they're the enemy. They're not going to go away if there's not regime change. And we're going to have to figure out, and it's not going to be easy, how to keep our foot on their throat.
Now, the appropriate response to the likes of Mark Levin would be, well, why don't, first of all, you go fight? And why doesn't Israel just fight its battles on its own? Why does the United States need to be involved, right? Because Iran didn't pose a threat to the United States at all. Their missiles can't reach the United States. Iran did not have a nuclear arsenal. And they weren't even planning on building a nuclear arsenal. They sure are now. They sure are now. And in fact, other countries like Saudi Arabia, for instance, they're like, ugh, maybe we should have considered a nuclear weapon. So nuclear proliferation is even more likely now as a result of this incredibly short-sighted and stupid war that the US got fooled into entering on behalf of Israel. Huge expose reported by the New York Times just yesterday about how there was a Situation Room meeting on February 11th with Benjamin Netanyahu involved in the room. Behind him on a giant screen, you have the head of Mossad and Mossad agents essentially working real hard to convince Trump, oh, it's going to be easy. It's going to be so easy. You'll be a hero. You'll be a hero. Do it. We have only lost from this war. Okay, we've lost the ability to transport oil through the Strait of Hormuz. Now Iran is charging $2 million tolls for tankers traveling through the Strait of Hormuz, meaning that they're making money as a result of this war. The global economy has been devastated. I mean, here in the United States, we feel it to some extent when it comes to gas prices. But in other parts of the world, they're literally rationing energy. They're rationing gas. So how about the IDF go fight this war? Well, Mark Levin would never suggest that, especially when you take a look at the spanking Hezbollah has carried out against the IDF in Lebanon. Now, Lebanon, of course, has been devastated by the IDF. They can't stop bombing civilian infrastructure. They can't stop killing journalists and peacekeepers from UNIFIL. It's their specialty, of course. But in regard to the very real damage that Hezbollah has done to the IDF's, military capability, let's talk about the over 100 Merkava tanks that have been destroyed by Hezbollah. So they needed the United States to do their dirty work for them. And if Trump were a smart man, he would sever his relationship with the likes of Mark Levin. Now, there's also Laura Loomer, who is, in my opinion, an Israeli spy and should be treated as such. But here are her thoughts following the announcement of the ceasefire.
What concessions did we get? What concessions did we get? Iran practically got everything that they wanted. Iran got everything that they wanted, and now they're going to be able to restock all their munitions, rebuild, gain more strength. And of course, they're going to have all this oil money. They're going to be able to continue funding the IRGC, funding all of this Islamic terrorism, funding their Iranian proxies all throughout the Middle East. They're going to continue firing rockets into Israel. And then eventually they're going to develop nuclear weapons, because they've already said that they try to keep it a secret, but they can't really keep it a secret because there's really no way to keep it a secret. Eventually, everybody finds out that Iran is working towards building a nuclear weapon.
Yeah, no, actually, her analysis there is correct. Congratulations, Laura. You effed up and found out. They weren't working on building a nuclear weapon prior to this war. They will now. They weren't charging tolls at the Strait of Hormuz prior to this war. They are now. And if the United States had the ability to defeat Iran, we would have done it. But we don't have the ability because we entered this war with a formidable military power. With what? With depleted stockpiles of weapons, including missile interceptors. So explain to me how it makes sense to continue fighting a war when everyone knows we have depleted missile interceptors and don't have the capacity to intercept Iran's missiles. Iran's missiles, by the way, they're not going to reach the United States. They're going to reach Israel, though. And this disgusting woman is like egging on a continuation of this war. I mean, okay, be careful what you wish for. But there was no indication, and honestly, there was no avenue. And I am not a military expert, which is why I rely on actual military experts to understand what's going on.
Did you know that the average employer has to sift through about 250 resumes just to find a single job? It's an insane amount of work and honestly a huge waste of time. Well, if you're hiring, here's good news. You can now review all those resumes and applications faster thanks to ZipRecruiter. We use them. ZipRecruiter has a new feature that instantly shows you the most interested qualified candidates first. And today you can try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/TYT. Look, their matching tech is so good that it finds the qualified people for you. But this new feature is a game changer. It actually bumps the candidates who are really excited about your job right to the top of the list. You even get a feel for their personality because they can tell you in their own words why they want to work for you. No wonder they're the #1 rated hiring site. Cut through the standard and get to the standouts with ZipRecruiter. 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. And now you can try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/TYT. That's ZipRecruiter.com/TYT. Meet your match on ZipRecruiter.
Okay, Colonel Daniel Davis, Colonel Douglas McGregor. I mean, all of these military experts, who, by the way, have their own programs, do interviews, they could not identify an avenue in which the US military would be able to take control of the Strait of Hormuz. Okay, we have 50,000 troops in the Middle East right now. You think 50,000 troops would be enough to take control of the Strait of Hormuz? Of course not. We had 250,000 soldiers in the Iraq War. Obviously, Iran is a bigger country, a far more formidable, military is involved when it comes to Iran. So these people have no idea what they're talking about, but they don't care. Anything for Israel. We're not going to send IDF soldiers to fight this war. No IDF troops on the ground. But come on, America, sacrifice your service members. They're dispensable. And if that doesn't infuriate the American people, if that doesn't convince the American people that we must sever our relationship with Israel, I don't know what will. I literally don't know what will. But polling does indicate that favorability toward Israel has dropped to an all-time low. And we'll cover that a little later on the program today. Now, last night, Senator Lindsey Graham kept insisting that he had always hoped for peace, okay? He had always wanted an end to this war. He wanted diplomacy, right? That's what Lindsey Graham is known for. Obviously, I'm being sarcastic if you haven't picked up on it, but pay close attention to what he's proposing in this X post. He says, like everyone, I hope we can end the reign of terror of the Iranian regime through diplomacy. We must remember that the Strait of Hormuz was attacked by Iran after the start of the war, destroying freedom of navigation. They control the Strait of Hormuz, whether you like it or not, homeboy. Okay, put it in your pipe and smoke it. It's just the truth. But he says going forward, it is imperative Iran is not rewarded for this hostile act against the world. Now, this is the part that's important. Pay attention. As to an Iranian 10-point proposal to end the war, I look forward to reviewing it at the appropriate time and its submission to Congress for a vote, like we did with the Obama JCPOA. That was the Iran nuclear deal that he's referring to. So let me get this straight. The senator didn't care at all when it came to ensuring there is a vote in Congress to start a war. But he wants to ensure that there is a vote in Congress to end a war. Depraved. He thinks you're stupid. He is insulting your intelligence by posting something like that on X. You're smarter than that because you watch the show and you know what's actually going on. But in other words, Graham does not want an end to this war, right? Look, there was a point where Iran was causing so much damage that it looked like Senator Lindsey Graham was ready to cry uncle. But at the end of the day, there has never been a war that Lindsey Graham did not love. Now, we'll note that Article 1, Section 8, Clause 11 of the US Constitution reads as follows, that the Congress shall have power to declare war. But unfortunately, after 9/11, Congress decided to chip away at that right, at that power, and cede that power to the executive branch. And now we're paying the consequences of that. So never allow a traumatic event, as terrible as it is, to convince you to give your rights away. For the American people, that has to do with our civil liberties. For Congress, it has to do with the whole reason of your existence in the first place.
Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.